Welcome to the Rig and Farm YouTube channel. My name's Nick.
And I'm Ashley.
And we're going to share with you our experience buying a manufactured home from Clayton Homes. In November of 2019, we realized that our dream was to start a farm. In January of 2020, we started looking for land and for builders because we knew that the only way we could afford to do this was to purchase raw land, because land with existing homes on it was definitely out of our budget. A month later in February, we went to Clayton Homes of Dalton because we found a blueprint of the Hancock 32 home and we really liked what we saw. When we got there, they didn't have any of the Hancock 32 on the lot, but they did have a lot of similar models made by the same manufacturer, so we were able to walk around and go through the homes to see what kind of build quality they had. We really liked the Hancock 32 because it's a 5-bedroom or optional 4-bedroom and an office, which is what we chose, and 3-bathroom because it's the 2 of us and our 4 kids, so we needed to have enough room for all of us to live comfortably. It's also really nice because it has both the living room and the den, so the kids and us have our separate areas. We felt really good about buying from Clayton, so we decided that this is the right choice. We were still on the hunt for the right piece of land. All we had to do was find that and then contact Clayton and get the ball rolling. When we were talking to our sales guy, we were told that the current wait time on homes was about 6 to 8 weeks from the time the order was placed. So that's actually pretty fast to build a home.
And then in March of 2020, the pandemic happened.
At that point in time, everybody was really unsure of what was going on in the world. Very few people were listing their homes because they didn't want people going into their living space and potentially spreading this disease that we knew so little about. Luckily for us, we weren't going into existing homes. All we were doing was trying to find open land, and we didn't have to come into contact with anybody when checking out different parcels. After searching through several listings and actually physically going to check out several tracts of land, we finally found this 24.5-acre parcel that we ended up purchasing. So in April of 2020, we made our offer and they accepted. After we went under contract, we immediately contacted our salesman at Clayton Homes and let him know. And he said, with the way things are going, your home should be ready to move in around September of 2020.
Wrong.
Yeah. The loan process took significantly longer than it should have because of the pandemic. Normally we could have done a new construction and land loan bundled into one, but none of the lenders were willing to do that. They wanted us to finance the land separately, and once we'd closed on that, then we could start the process of doing a construction loan. We contacted our local Farm Ag credit union and started the loan process. They told us it normally takes about 14 days to close. After 48 days, we finally closed on our loan. When we got home after closing, we contacted the lender we had been speaking to about the construction loan, and she notified us that the new policy is that they only paid off so much for the land, and we would have to bring an additional $20-something thousand to closing, which we were not prepared to do. The next day we found a different lender who was willing to pay off the full amount of the land loan, and they told us that the process would be about 45 days because there's a pandemic going on. 30 days was the norm. Part of the construction loan process is that we needed a sales agreement from Clayton. So we met virtually with our salesman to go over all of the options and features we wanted in our new home.
So during our first meeting with Clayton Homes, they gave us a floor plan option. On one side it had the floor plan. On the other side it came with a list of the standard features for the home as well as some available options that we could choose so that when the home was built, we could have it built to our specifications. We sat down during a virtual meeting to go over the options that we selected. Our salesman was very agreeable to all of the requests that we had. We did have some requests that were a little outside of the norm. So typically the home comes with a rear door and windows in the dining room. We decided to omit the standard rear door and include a sliding glass door, which was perfectly acceptable because it would still be up to fire code. We opted for a vinyl floor option throughout the kids' living room and down the hall, which normally came with carpet installed. On our farm, we have lots of clay, and clay and carpet do not mix well. We also requested that we receive the 50-gallon hot water heater, since we do have 6 of us that shower on a regular basis. We asked for our air vents to be installed in the ceiling versus the floor. When we went and toured some of the homes, we noticed that some of the air vents were in very strange locations, which made adding furniture to the home pretty awkward. This request was acceptable and they said it was not a problem. We also asked for external outlets on both the front and the back of the home so that we would have electricity wherever we needed, as well as water faucets on both the front and back of the home. We also asked to have our air return vent inside the laundry room versus on the wall inside the kitchen. They said this isn't something they normally do, but because we asked for a louvered door going into the laundry room, this made it something they said they could do. As far as the other options go, most of it was pretty standard decor options that we selected, and none of that was an issue. And we requested that we be able to choose our own appliances from Lowe's versus the standard appliances that come in the home, which they said was not a problem. With Nick's culinary background, we do most of our cooking at home, so we prefer to use a gas cooktop. However, being this far out from town, natural gas is not an option, and we didn't want LP. So we decided that going with an induction cooktop would be the best option.
At the end of our virtual meeting, we scheduled an appointment with a contractor who would be doing the majority of the site preparation for our new home on our property. When we got out there, he was very friendly and had a lot of really great suggestions for us. We showed him the general area where we wanted our home and some of the things we wanted, like a circular driveway. And we'd also mentioned we wanted to get a shipping container, and we asked him to create a space for that to go so that it would be nice and level and easy to access from the home. Nothing seemed too difficult for him and his team to accomplish, so he went ahead and wrote up an itemized invoice, sent a copy to Clayton Homes as well as one to us, so we knew exactly how much was going to be spent every step of the way. So we finally closed on our loan at the end of September in 2020. If you've never done a construction loan before, you may not know that it is an interest-only loan until construction is complete and you modify the loan into a permanent standard mortgage. The interest rate on a construction loan is significantly higher than your standard mortgage. Upfront, you pay the interest on the expected time frame of the construction to be complete, which can be included into your loan as part of the principal, or you can pay that out of pocket. We didn't have that kind of cash lying around, so we had it added to the principal. A few days after closing, I still hadn't heard anything from Clayton Homes, so I decided to reach out to them. They told me that I had to go up to their office to sign some additional closing documents for their end. Their office is about an hour and 15 minutes from the home we were living in at the time, and when I was about 10 minutes away from their office, I got a call from them saying they did not have the proper documents and that I'd have to come back some other time. They did have some additional documents for me that I could pick up, so I figured while I was out, I might as well go in to get those, and they told me that I was responsible for getting all of the building permits necessary for them to get started. After I made that hour and 15-minute drive back home, I got on the phone with all the county offices to find out exactly what I needed to do to get started with that process. When building a home, you need a building permit. If you're having a septic system for your home, you need to get a septic permit. In order to get the septic permit, you need to get a soil test done by a geologist. After getting good test results back from the geologist, I went up to the county office to get the septic permit started. It only took a couple days to get that back, and then I was able to get started with the building permit. After the soil test and both permits, I was looking at about $1,500 out of pocket additionally that I had to spend. Fast forward to November, and our salesman agreed to meet with me at a grocery store parking lot, which is about a halfway point, so neither of us had to drive too far for me to finally sign all of those closing documents. At that point in time, they told me that our home should be ready to go in December, and it would only take a few weeks for them to set it up so we could move in either at the end of the year or the beginning of 2021. Towards the end of November, we had a logging company come in to do a clear cut on most of our property so that we'd be able to have more usable space for all of the farming we needed to get done. One day, on our way to check on the progress of the loggers, we decided to give Clayton a call since we hadn't heard anything from them. At this point in time, none of the site preparation had been done, so we were asking if our home was still going to be ready in December. The response we were given is that they had a new model home available that they'd be more than happy to give us. They sent over the floor plan and pictures of that exact home, and it wasn't at all what we wanted. It was a very similar size and layout, but it wasn't the home we had ordered. They told us it would be another 4 months before they got the home that we actually ordered onto their lot.
At this point, we requested to have the grading and site prep for the home started, in addition to having our well drilled so that we were able to have water ready when we started the garden. Manufactured homes do not come with a garage, so we decided that we would order a shipping container and have it delivered for us to use as storage space. We needed to go ahead and get that order placed and have it delivered so that we could start bringing tools and supplies up to the farm.
Clayton Homes gave us the time to meet the contractor at our property so that we could go ahead and get started with all of that. Shortly after we got there, we got a call from him saying that he could not find our property. Little did we know that this would be foreshadowing for a great deal of problems we have with our mailing address. After getting off the phone with him, we realized that this is not the same guy we had met before. He finally found the place and confirmed the fact that he was a different gentleman entirely. At this point in time, the loggers had completed the clear cut from our property, so we had a much better idea of where we wanted our home. We showed him an approximate area where we wanted the home and where we wanted to have our circular driveway. We told him about the shipping container we wanted to order and gave him free rein where it was going to be placed as long as it was relatively close to the home. We also shared with him the budget that the previous contractor had given us to complete the job, and he said it would be no problem for him to come well under budget. If there's money left over in the budget once construction's complete, they can either apply that leftover to the principal of your loan, or they can put it towards other upgrades for your house. He and one employee got started in the beginning of January of 2021, and they did not do a very good job. We have a plethora of other videos on our channel that show a lot of the problems that we had. We're going to put some links to some of the videos that we've posted about his work in the video description below. Also in January, we called Clayton Homes to see if we could get an update and approximate ETA of our home. They told us that it wouldn't be ready until April, but the order had already been placed through the factory. I had a really bad feeling about what was going on here, so I clarified to make sure that some of the options that were a little unusual were actually placed. I mentioned the fact that we wanted our back door excluded because we have the sliding glass door, and they were like, "Oh, I don't see that on the order form. We're going to go ahead and call the factory right now and make sure that they can exclude that door for you." I did get a call back later saying that it was no problem and the factory did accept that request. A few months had gone by and we hadn't heard anything, so in March I called to get an update. They told us that our home would be scheduled for delivery the week of May 17th. That's not delivered to our property, that's delivered to their lot. Once they received it, it would then take about 6 to 8 weeks before they would be able to have it delivered, set up, all of the utilities connected, and everything ready to go for us to move in. The general manager even told me they just tell people 6 to 8 weeks, but it very rarely takes that long. They just like to give themselves a buffer so that we're happily surprised when it takes much less time.
As frustrating as this was, the timeline was still working out okay because we had kids that would start back to school in August. So as long as we were moved in sometime during the summer and they could start their new school, it wasn't going to be an issue. At this point, our well still had not been drilled. So we asked them to go ahead and get started on that because we were fast approaching the last frost for the year and we needed to get water available for our garden. The salesman's response was that he would call them as soon as he got off the phone with us and give us a call back with their info or have them reach out to us. That never happened.
A few more months went by, and on May 21st, I called Clayton to find out if our home had been delivered. They said it did arrive that week and they would be delivering it to our property the following week. I asked if now would be a good time to select the appliances we wanted for our kitchen. Our salesman told us to go to the Lowe's website and send him some links of the different appliances so he could go ahead and get those ordered. The home finally got delivered on June 17th, so 4 weeks later. We were told it would just be another 6 to 8 weeks before our home was ready to move in. We were fortunate enough to be able to witness the home delivery, and we actually have a video of that if you want to check that out. Once the two pieces of the home were delivered, being the curious people we are, we looked through the windows to see our new home. We noticed quite a few things that were not right when we took that peek. The air ducts were in the floor instead of the ceiling like we had requested. The kitchen appliances were not what we asked for. There was no electrical outlet or water faucet on the front of the home. There were cracks in the ceiling in both the kitchen and our office, and the den walls had completely fallen apart. We were told that cracks in the ceiling and broken walls were pretty common in the moving process. After all, the home is 76 feet long, and there's lots of bending and contorting and things like that as they're going over bumps in the road. They said it's not a problem. They can easily fix all of that. It would only take a couple days.
Watching your brand new home be delivered is not for the faint of heart. So at this point, we're in June, and we still have no well, which means we have no water for the plants that we have put in the garden. We had spent hours planting thousands of seedlings at our old home and then transplanting them into the garden so that they would be ready to grow. Plants need water, and we had none. On an almost daily basis, Nick transported 5 gallons of water from our home to the property and then hand watered every single plant that we had. This caused much added stress that was not necessary. This was a struggle, and we ended up losing the battle. most of the plants didn't survive after all of the work and money that we put into it.
Clearly, we were not very happy with how things were going. I contacted Clayton Homes of Dalton and asked to speak to the manager and found out that they had a new general manager. I gave him a rundown of a lot of the problems we were having, and he agreed to meet with us on our property on July 9th. The home setup hadn't even begun at this point, but meeting with him, we learned a lot. Our home hadn't even been ordered until December 22nd of 2020. That's 3 months after we closed on our loan, and after we had the conversation with Clayton saying that we did not want the model home they tried to pawn off on us. The new manager told us that normal protocol is to go ahead and place the order once the sales agreement has been signed, because even if the financing falls through, they have a brand new home on their lot that someone will buy. So that explained why we had such a significant delay in our home being built. He assured us that he would do everything in his power to rectify all of the wrongs, but obviously some things were completely out of his hands, especially when it comes to other contractors or things that have already been done that he can't change. It took 4 weeks for our initial home setup to be completed. Normally that's only a 2 to 3 day process. Once the setup was done, a rough inspection needed to be completed by the county in order for them to connect the water and the power. The well was finally drilled on August 9th, and water samples were taken on August 23rd. They have to get those samples to a lab within a couple days in order to make sure that the test results are accurate. They sat on the samples for so long that they actually had to come back out and do another test to get our results. We finally got the results on September 1st. We should have had those results within 3 or 4 days of the well being drilled. This part isn't necessarily Clayton's fault, but we didn't get our power connected until August 19th. By the way, Amicalola EMC in North Georgia is absolutely horrible to work with.
So as Nick had mentioned before, our ceilings were cracked when the home was delivered. Ceilings can't be repaired without AC. So until the power was installed, we were not able to have our ceilings fixed, which only put us further behind.
They finally completed everything that they needed to do at the home on September 10th, so they were able to order the final inspection with the county. The inspection was scheduled for September 15th, and the inspector came out, and no one from Clayton was here to unlock the door, so he immediately left and charged them a fine for coming out without them being here. Later that night, someone came and brought a lockbox to put on the door, so the inspector was able to get in the house the following day to complete the inspection.
This was not the first home that they had installed, so there's no reason they were not prepared for these things.
We finally had the walkthrough of our home on September 23rd and got the keys immediately afterwards. It was pretty relieving, but during that walkthrough we did find additional things that were wrong with the home. Luckily, the correct appliances were delivered that afternoon shortly following the walkthrough. Some of the things we found that were wrong during the walkthrough was that our hot water heater was a 40-gallon instead of the 50-gallon we requested. The fireplace, right here, this stone had actually pulled off of the wall and was kind of dangling, did not look very safe. There was broken trim throughout the house, and there were scratches all over the kitchen cabinets. Part of the tile backsplash in the kitchen had fallen off. There were bubbles throughout the vinyl flooring. Part of the built-in cabinet in the kids' living room was coming off of the wall. The screen portion of our sliding glass door wouldn't roll smoothly on the tracks and kept getting stuck. And there was a huge gap in our front door. When you live in the woods, you don't want a gap in your front door. Since Clayton Homes' maintenance man was the one doing the walkthrough with us, he was able to actually do most of those repairs that afternoon while they waited for the appliances to be delivered. Obviously, the hot water heater being the wrong size was out of his control and he couldn't do anything about that. But overall, he has been very helpful, and I would say out of the people that we've dealt with Clayton Homes, he's probably the best one. Our home is under warranty for a year, so anytime something has gone wrong or needed to be repaired, he's been very helpful and has come out to do those repairs for us. He wasn't able to do anything with the flooring, but they did have somebody from the factory in Tennessee come down to help us with that. He was also really great, and he showed us a couple tips and tricks on how to do some little minor things without having to wait for a maintenance guy to come out and do it for us. Now that we had our certificate of occupancy and could legally live in the home, we were able to schedule the loan modification through our lender.
So we were also surprised on our day of our final walkthrough with me testing positive for COVID. So after the inspection was complete, I had to go to the hospital and get a COVID test. Before I made it back to the property, I got a confirmation call letting me know that I did in fact have COVID. So to break in the new house, I got to spend 2 weeks quarantining all by myself with no furniture.
We were very fortunate that we had 2 homes to live in at this point because I was able to stay at our old house with the kids to make sure that they were taken care of and got to school.
It did, however, make it very difficult for us to be prepared for the movers when they arrived.
We officially moved into our home on October 4th. And a few days later, on October 12th, was when we had our loan modified and it converted into a traditional mortgage. So those interest payments I'd mentioned earlier on our construction loan had only been paid up through June. So that meant that every month afterwards, until our loan was modified, we had to make interest-only payments. Those payments are actually more than our interest and principal combined on our new mortgage.
We also were making our regular mortgage payment on top of those interest-only payments.
So one lesson we learned is if you want new construction and you can afford to do it, pay in cash.
We've been in the home for 4 months now, and we'd like to share some of the disappointments that we've found. So when doing the walkthrough of the homes on the lot at Clayton, we didn't notice that there were no shelving in either the kitchen or the bathroom cabinets. The cabinets are amazing. They're 27 inches tall, almost 27 inches deep, which is a nice size cabinet, but they don't have any shelves inside of them. It's a big, giant, open cave space that you cannot put your groceries inside. We have amazing cabinets that go all the way around the refrigerator, which double as the pantry because there is no added pantry space for this home. But when the cabinets are 27 inches tall and almost 27 inches deep, trying to stack your food is not a fun task. And accessing the food that you've put in there is even worse. So on top of the cost of us already paying for the home, we then had to take on the expense of adding sliding shelves into our cabinets so that we could actually access all of the food that we put in there. These shelves turned out really great, and we were very thankful that my dad was able to help us with that task. However, there's no bracing inside the cabinets. It's just a thin sheet of wood that has absolutely no purpose, and you cannot anchor anything into it. So extra money was spent on having to build frames for each cabinet inside, and then each cabinet and shelving had to be built to specific measurements because none of them were the same. We've also encountered numerous holes throughout the trim in the house. If the trim was actually connected to the wall, then there were holes in it. We requested to have drywall put throughout the house, which we were told they were not able to do because it causes problems with the walls collapsing during delivery. It collapsed anyways, so we don't understand what the problem was. But instead, we were given paneling, which you see in most manufactured homes. This causes you to need trim boards placed over top of all of the seams, which does not look good, and they're not even in any of the locations of the house. As I mentioned earlier, we paid extra money to have a backsplash in the kitchen because we thought that would add a nice touch. However, when it arrived, it was 4 inches tall and served absolutely no purpose. Once you put anything on the counter, you can't even tell there's a backsplash there. And when you're cooking and you have paneling on the walls, which is a light color, it tends to collect all of the grease from behind the stove. We had to buy a new dryer when we moved to this house because our old dryer was gas. So when they came to install the dryer for us, they were not able to connect it to the dryer vent. So the maintenance man was called and he had to come back out just to install the dryer vent. We also discovered that the tubs drain extremely slowly. The bathroom faucets take an extremely long time to get hot water to them. And our much smaller water heater makes our garden bathtub unable to fill all the way.
Unless you want it cold.
So we did have carpet installed in the bedrooms of the home as well as the den. The carpet is not a very good quality, however, and it's very lumpy underneath. We were informed that the pad under the carpet is made from recycled plastics, which is fine, but it does cause irregular shapes and hard lumps in areas of the carpet, which doesn't feel very good if you're walking on it bare feet. When the vinyl flooring guy came out to the house, he did let us know that you can hit these areas with a hammer and it will make them a little more bearable, which is something you should not have to do with your brand new home, by the way. We also had spots in the vinyl flooring where the nails were coming up. They hadn't protruded through the floor yet, but they did cause problems. And we learned at this time that the creaks we were hearing under the floor were actually due to the house settling, and he was able to make some adjustments underneath by tightening some of the straps.
So we don't want to be completely negative here. There are a lot of things that we really like about this home. This home is 2,280 square feet, and the layout is very efficient. The reason most people go with a manufactured home versus a site-built home is the cost. So we were able to get a decent-sized home for less money than a traditionally built home. Because there were so many options available, we were able to pick out the colors that we like, so aesthetically we really do like the looks of this home. There's lots of built-in storage throughout the home, which is really nice considering the fact that we don't have an attic or a garage, so we were able to find a home for almost all of our stuff. We're very grateful that even though it is a manufactured home that's built in a factory, we were still able to do some unusual requests like omitting our back door since we have the sliding glass door. Our sliding glass door is right off of our dining area, and that gave us the ability to put a really nice back deck off of our home so that we have outdoor dining and seating as well. And rather than having a back door that we never use, we had a wall, so we were able to put an upright freezer in that space that fits perfectly. Another thing we really like about this home that's pretty common in most homes that have been built in recent years is the smart thermostat and the energy efficiency. Because we don't have gas and we have a well and a septic system, our only utility bill is electricity. We're able to power our home and Ashley's parents' camper, and our electric bill is about $200 a month. That also includes powering the Energizer for our electric fencing. Because of my culinary background and just passion for food in general, we do spend a lot of time in the kitchen, so we're very thankful we were able to find a home in our price range that had a very large kitchen with tons of counter space. So in conclusion, Clayton Homes of Dalton was absolutely horrible to work with. There was terrible communication throughout the process. I was always having to call them to get information, and they very rarely, if ever, called back when they told me that they would. Whether our salesman was lying just to make the sale or if he just didn't know the product very well, he promised us things that we could have done to our home that were unable to be done. Because of the 3-month delay on ordering our home, it created a huge snowball effect that caused us to move into our home a year later than we had originally expected. That delay in moving here not only was annoying, but it caused significant stress in so many different areas of our lives. I would say that probably the most stressful situation that it put us in was the fact that we have children that go to school. Once we found out that we wouldn't be able to move into the new home until April or May, we decided to keep the kids in their old school until the school year finished out. Changing schools and moving is already stressful enough for a child. We didn't want to do it in the middle of the year. Once we rolled into summer, we weren't sure whether or not the home would be ready to move in before the new school year started. Our youngest was about to start kindergarten, and we weren't sure whether to register him at the old school district or the new school district. The general manager of Clayton Homes assured us that we would be moved in before school started. We went ahead and registered the kids in the new district and got everything situated for them. As we were a couple weeks away from school starting, we were told that our home should be ready no later than 1 week into the school year. Ashley's parents live in North Carolina about 2 hours away from our property, and they agreed to bring their camper down and stay next to the home so that the kids could start school before we're able to move in. That way the kids weren't having to be in the car for an hour and 15 minutes each way. That would have gotten old really fast. The fact that our utilities weren't even ready by the time school started was a problem because they couldn't connect their camper to our utilities. So in addition to having to pay our mortgage, the interest-only payments, we also paid for them to stay at a campground so that they could be hooked up until we had utilities ready here on the farm. Once we did have power and water connected to the home, they were able to move the camper here, and they just kind of never left. We tried to get Clayton Homes corporate headquarters involved in this process because of the trouble we were having. Every time I talked to somebody, they assured me that someone would call me within 24 to 48 hours to resolve the problem. The person who would end up calling was the general manager of Clayton Homes of Dalton. When you call corporate headquarters when you have a complaint about a specific office, you don't want that office to call to resolve the problem. You kind of want to go over their head, which is why you're calling the corporate office. We understand that throughout this entire process, there's been a global pandemic. There are so many things that are completely out of our control, and they were out of Clayton's control as well. There have been supply issues, there have been labor shortages, there have been factories shut down, there are all sorts of issues that have caused this problem. The things that are inexcusable are the complete lack of accountability, the horrible communication, and the lies. I think the thing that makes me most upset is the fact that they didn't order the home for 3 months after we closed on our loan. There is absolutely no reason for that to happen, unless something really shady was happening behind the scenes, which we were kind of alluded to believe. We had an absolutely horrible experience and very little was done to help correct that along the way. Our hope is that through sharing our experience in this video, we're able to better inform and educate other people who might be looking at Clayton Homes as a possible answer to their home needs. We're not afraid to hold back and we don't sugarcoat anything, so please feel free to comment below if you have any additional questions or would like follow-up with anything that we've talked about in this video. We do want to finish this video by asking ourselves this one question. What would we do differently if we knew then what we know now about this process?
We went with Clayton Homes because after reading reviews, they seemed to be the most reputable, and even our lender stated that that was the only manufactured home company that they worked with. Is this a Clayton Homes issue, or is this a Clayton Homes of Dalton issue? We're not really sure. We knew we were having problems with Clayton Homes of Dalton, but upon contacting the corporate office, we didn't find them to be any more helpful. This leads me to believe that maybe it's more of a Clayton issue and not just Clayton Homes of Dalton. We needed a house that was going to be large enough for our entire family, as well as give us some office space for the business. Having a site-built home was just not feasible in our budget, and we were not able to find the size home that we needed on the size property that we needed. Despite the struggle and the frustration that we experienced, we still would have gone with a manufactured home. We didn't have a lot of options as far as other dealers in the area. Clayton Homes of Dalton was an hour away from our property, and any other company was even further. We are happy with our home purchase.
Overall, we're really glad that we're here, and we do like our home. We don't plan on living in this home for the rest of our lives. We do plan on having a site-built home built on the backside of our property once the kids are grown. As long as we take good care of this home, it will still be here, and it'll be great for the kids to rent out while they're in college, or if we have family come to stay, or we might even rent it out as an Airbnb. We don't really know what the future holds, but we do know that as long as we maintain this home, it will be here for decades to come. Starting a farm was our dream that we knew we had to make into a reality in order for our lives to be fulfilling. There's not really any other way we could have made that happen, especially with a pandemic that nobody could have predicted coming. We were very fortunate that when we purchased our land and signed our sales agreement for the home, it was before real estate prices skyrocketed. We did benefit from that when we sold our old home, and we were able to use that money to invest back into the farm. Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end. Once again, please feel free to comment below if you have any questions, and we'll definitely do our best to answer them. If you don't already, we'd also really appreciate it if you give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We will be posting video updates on our home over the next several years, so if you're interested in seeing how the home holds up, definitely subscribe. If you're new to our channel, we post videos about every aspect of our farm life. We currently have pigs, chickens, ducks, and rabbits, so we're always posting content about them. We're about to do a lot of work on our garden over the next several months, so if you're interested in that, definitely check out those videos. And again, comment below if you have any suggestions for some of the things you'd like to see on our farm. Once again, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.